Welcome to LEAD Training 2017. What is LEAD? LEAD is our Legislative Education and Advocacy Day. Every year, NASW Florida establishes a legislative agenda and priorities that guide our lobbying and advocacy in the state of Florida. It's important that we understand the role that social workers play in advocating for our community and for citizens that we serve. Our social work core values outlines 6 core values that are critical to understanding the importance of our advocacy. First, we look at service. We also focus on social justice, which is all about ensuring that individuals in our communities are reflected in the changes that are made in our legislation. We look at dignity and worth of the person, the importance of human relationships, integrity, and competence. Our code of ethics identifies 4 key areas of legislative action that is critical to our role as social workers. First, we're called to engage in social and political action. It's important that we're aware of the impact of legislation on our actual practice. Whether you're in clinical social work, you're in administrative social work, or focus on policy, our legislative agenda is important in terms of how we're able to practice in the way that serves the best interests of our clients. It's important that we advocate for changes in policy to improve social conditions in our communities and in the world. We are also called to promote social justice for everyone. Our public policy in this country impacts individuals, businesses, families, children, funding sources, our social work profession, and absolutely everything. So why should social workers and social work students be involved in legislative advocacy? Well, first of all, because it impacts everything we do. But also, we have a very unique perspective. We have our person and environment perspective that really helps us to be able to see the big picture. And who better is able to engage in building effective relationships, especially in the spirit of negotiation, than social workers? Social work legislation and advocacy is part of our professional heritage, from things that were passed as part of the New Deal to our active frontline involvement in the Civil Rights Act of 1965. We have been involved in social and political change. In Florida in particular, there are 3 things that I wanted to point out around our legislative advocacy and where we've made a huge difference. First, we established, along with other supporters, social work title protection in Florida. Secondly, we now have a Florida Institute for Child Welfare that we were very active in lobbying for. And finally, the Child Protection and Child Welfare Personnel bills, which support professional social work in child welfare. It's important that we understand the basics of Florida government as we prepare for LEAD. Now, in most high school courses, there was an opportunity to be involved in understanding the branches of government. So when you look at that, there's our legislative branch, our executive branch, and our judicial branch of government. We want to make sure that we are at the forefront of interacting with all branches of government, but our focus for LEAD is, of course, on our legislative branch. We want to look at how an idea becomes a law. So take some time, look at this chart after the presentation, and make sure that you understand how an idea that's proposed by a citizen or a group or an organization, how it gets introduced, how it then goes through committees and hearings and usually there are significant changes that are made along the way, and then it finally becomes a law. So it's important to understand what that process looks like. If you attend LEAD 2017, take an opportunity to actually attend some of those committee meetings, and you'll get a chance to see firsthand how some of those changes occur. Our legislative branch in Florida has 120 members in the House of Representatives, and we have 40 senators that serve us. So make sure that you're aware of who they are. So if I asked you, out of the 40 senators that we have, who represents your area? Make sure that you're aware of who that is and who serves in the House of Representatives on your behalf so that you're prepared to have conversations around your issues. In preparing for LEAD, take some time and review issues and legislation that will be discussed so that you're knowledgeable as you engage in your meetings. Begin by researching and reading bills. So search by the bill number, or you can search by text. When you're looking at bills, and if you see something in that bill that has an underline, you know that that's something that's proposed as an addition. If it has a strike through, that is being proposed as a deletion. So you want to make sure that you're aware of changes that are being proposed as you study bills. I always encourage students in particular to study those bills that they might be most passionate about. You'll have a lot more interest around those bills. Evaluating bills. It's important to be able to understand what is most likely to help a bill to pass. So there's some things that are really critical. So for example, if you introduce your bill early in both houses, if the bill has multiple sponsors, that's important. Bipartisan support is critical to having a bill pass through successfully. If it's assigned to few committees, moves through the process without getting stuck along the way. The more support you have, of course, it makes sense that the more likely your bill is to move through. And if you have influential people working on those bills, that can help to ensure your success. Issues that LEAD. Every year, NASW Florida identifies 10 to 12 bills and then trims that list as we get closer to our LEAD activities. So we want to make sure that you're aware of what those issues are. So our legislative priorities for 2017 are very clear. We are focused on enhancing services and funding for mental health and behavioral health services. We want to enhance services for veterans, military members, and their families. We are very much invested in making sure that services for aging persons and their caregivers is at the forefront of our legislative priorities. Enhancing health care coverage, as well as enhancing services in child welfare, is part of our legislative priorities. We have established our legislative agenda. It focuses on 3 primary areas that we are focused on for 2017. First, mental health and behavioral health services. We are advocating to promote legislation that would utilize treatment rather than prison or homelessness for those with mental health or behavioral health challenges. We want to ensure involuntary commitment procedures serve clients and the public best. What is in the best interest? We support the expansion of and improvements of mental health and behavioral health services available to veterans and their families. We support allowing licensed clinical social workers to provide and be reimbursed for Medicaid mental health services independently. And we want to increase mental health and behavioral health services for our aging community. Our second legislative agenda item is our social work workforce. We fully support fair and marketable reimbursement rates for social workers providing mental health and behavioral health services through public and private insurance carriers. We strongly support ensuring that caseloads for child welfare investigators and child welfare case managers are set at a level that they are able to provide optimal care for the families and for the children that they're serving. We support the legislature in their efforts to recruit, train, and retain qualified child welfare staff, including promoting full utilization of Title IV funds. We encourage the legislature to recognize the importance of the social work profession, our workforce challenges, and trends in employment. We support exploring the need for licensure and or certification for bachelor's level social workers and non-clinical master's level social work. We support programs which address safety concerns for social workers. Our third and final legislative agenda item for 2017 is health, aging, and social justice. We support accessible and affordable health care for all families, including Medicaid recipients, and the utilization of all federal funds to expand care. We promote criminal justice laws and sentencing guidelines that are reasonable, equitable, free of bias, flexible to the situation, and protect the public. We support programs that reduce homelessness or assist those experiencing homelessness and that enhance affordable housing options. We support expanding services and funding to aging persons, those with disabilities, and their caregivers. We promote legislation which allows services and employment for all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, age, marital status, political belief, religion, immigration status, mental or physical disabilities. We support service for all. In preparing for LEAD, get ready to make those appointments. Get started early. Find out who your representatives are. Who's your senator? Who serves on committees from your area? Make sure that you're aware of that before you get to LEAD. Find your legislators online. Call up. Make an appointment. If you're speaking with an assistant, remember to always be respectful and courteous, but always try and advocate for your client in the way that serves them best. There are some online sites that will be able to guide you, and so on this slide you'll see where you can find your elected officials throughout Florida, and you'll be able to identify this by putting in your street address and your zip code, and it will provide for you a list of who is serving from your own community. Now, when you attend LEAD, how are you going to get around? We're going to be in massive numbers this year, so it's important to try and find a group to buddy along with. Make sure that you're aware of our agenda for LEAD, where we're meeting and what times we're meeting. Look for individuals that are going to be serving as hosts this year. We have members of NASW Florida, of course, that will be serving as your host as always. We also have from our local university, from Florida State University and from Florida A&M University, we'll have student leaders who are going to be on hand to serve as your host. We have student ambassadors from FSU that will also be involved. So make sure you look for us because we'll be there to assist you in getting to all of the right places. This is a view of our Florida Capitol, and we want to see your face in the place. Now, for our session committee meetings this year, we're going to be emphasizing, in addition to meeting with your legislators in terms of the House and the Senate, we also want to make sure that you're attending committee meetings. This is a great opportunity that you don't want to miss. So at your training on April 3rd, as well as at registration on April 4th, you will be able to get information about these session committee meetings, find out where they are, what time they are, and for each of those meetings, we will have a host there to guide you during those meetings. So make sure that you find out about that for this LEAD. Our schedule is as follows. On April 3rd, we will have our LEAD training at the Tallahassee Auto Museum. It'll begin at 3:30 p.m. We will end at 7 p.m. that evening. Dress for this event is, of course, casual, but we want to see every college, university, and Department of Social Work represented at our LEAD training. Then on April 4th, We want to see you bright and early at the Florida Capitol. Behind the Capitol is where we will be meeting at the Waller Park Dolphin statue. So we'll all meet there at 8 o'clock for our registration and for a little breakfast. So don't be late. Then at 8:30, we are going to fill the Capitol with the voices of the social work students and social work professionals. So be there for our 8:30 rally. Do not miss it. At 9 o'clock, we'll begin those legislative appointments as well as attending those committee meetings. Your voice can really make a difference at LEAD 2017. The opportunity to lobby for those that we serve. Also, make sure that you're aware when you're meeting with our legislators and with staff that you have a spokesperson in your group if you're going with a group, and you limit your issues. You don't want to be too overwhelming because you want your voice to be heard. For your legislative visits, make sure that you thank the person that you're meeting with and you understand where they stand on certain issues. This page in particular on this slide is going to offer you some pointers. We want to encourage you to take the time to read through these pointers prior to your legislative visit. Keep things moving. After you leave, we don't want your advocacy to end. So we want you to tweet, we want you to email, to write, to keep communicating with those that are making decisions on behalf of social work and those we serve. So keep moving forward. There are resources and websites that can guide you. So go through this PowerPoint and make sure that you click on those resources so that you're familiar with everything that is available on there. We want to close with focusing on some quotes by Whitney Young. Whitney Young was a social worker who made huge changes in our legislature nationally. So we want to make sure that we are reflective of a couple of these quotes. So the first one, you've probably heard it, but you didn't know who to attribute it to. Well, now you know it was actually a social worker. So the first one, it is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So get prepared for LEAD. The second and final quote, I am not anxious to be the loudest voice or the most popular, but I would like to think that at a crucial moment, I was an effective voice of the voiceless and effective voice of the hopeless. So let's see how effective we can be in a united front for LEAD 2017. We look forward to seeing you there.